Good morning, Eagles, and welcome to Mr. G's Art Studio. Today we're going to learn to use overlapping to make our drawings look more dimensional and our art look more 3D. Also, it makes for a better art composition. Let's get started. For today's assignment, you're going to need a pencil and paint. If you don't have paint, you can always use markers or crayons to add color. Go ahead and pause the video now if you need to get your materials ready. For our first step, we're going to turn our paper horizontal. That means sideways. If you're wearing a watch, you're going to want to remove your watch because you will be tracing your hand and your wrist. You're going to put your hand in the middle of the paper, make sure it's nice and flat and straight, and your fingers are far apart from each other. You're going to take your pencil and slowly you're going to trace around your hand, making sure you include the part of your arm and the wrist that is at the edge of the paper. Let's see. Now if you pick up your hand and there's parts you didn't trace, you could always put your hand back and add in the parts you're missing. Also, if the hand, sometimes when you turn your pencil sideways, the fingers come out too skinny. If that happened to you, go ahead and put your hand back and trace it, but this time make sure you keep your pencil straight up and down, and that way it will come out more looking like your real hand. Now we're going to go ahead and turn our paper vertical. That is up and down, vertical. And now it looks like our hand is stretched out to shake hands perhaps. This is where we're going to start our overlapping. Now overlapping is when an object looks like it's in the front and the other object looks like it's in the back. And it's an illusion, it's a trick that you create to make your art look more dimensional. So I'm going to start at the top. I'm going to do 4 lines. My first line is going to be right here by the knuckle of my thumb. This is your knuckle on your thumb, right there. So that's going to be my first line. I'm going to do it with marker just so that you can see it better, but you could do it with pencil as well. So I'm going to start right about here. And I'm going down, and when I get to about the knuckle, I'm going to stop. If you remember when we did Starry Night by Vincent van Gogh, that we did the mountains and the pine tree, you remember that cypress, the pine tree, was in the front and the mountains were in the back. And so we would start the lines, stop at the pine tree, and then continue on the other side. That was your first introduction to overlapping. Now we're going to continue that same line at the bottom. So we're going to kind of put our pencil here and see that it lines up with the bottom part. And we're going to continue that line right down here for a little bit, and then we're going to stop. See how it looks like the line is behind the hand because it continues on the other side? Now if you forgot to stop and you kept on going across the hand, make sure you get an eraser and you erase that part right there, because we should draw, stop, and then draw again. So each time you're going to draw, stop, and then draw again. Now we're going to draw the next line, and the next line I'm going to do it about by the tip of my thumb, about the tip of my thumb, and this is a vertical line. So I'm going to start, stop, pass my thumb, start again, stop, and then make sure it's lined up, and then I'm going to continue at the bottom right here by my pinky. You start to see that overlapping, how the hand looks like it's in the front and the line looks like it's in the back. Now I'm going to do my third one over here by where I have my fingers. By now I should know how to start and stop right in between and making sure I don't go over the hand. So here's line number 3, and it's going to go right through the fingers, but I'm going to start and stop every time I get to a finger, right? Here we go. I'm drawing, and I get to a finger. What do? I stop. And then there's a little part peeking in right here. I'm going to draw that, and then I'm going to stop. And then right here in between is another part peeking in, and then I'm going to stop. And last, by the pinky, last piece I'm going to draw, and then I'm going to stop. And then the last piece at the bottom. Make sure that these at the bottom are nice and long, because you want to show that overlapping effect. So far I have 3 lines that start and stop as soon as they get to the line, to the hand. Now goes my last line, and I'm going to do it over here by the tip of my fingers. I'm going to, and it's okay if they get curved, because they're going to be flowers, just like the Picasso flowers. So I'm going to stop right there, and I'm going to continue and stop and continue and stop. Now I'll have 4 lines. Each one of those lines is going to be a flower, and the illusion I want to create is that the flowers are inside the hand, or that the hand is holding the flowers, and that they are overlapping. In other words, the flowers are behind the hand, just like the marker is behind my fingers. Now I wonder, what kind of flowers am I going to draw? Let's see. Maybe this one over here could be a tulip. And tulips can be pointy at the top and then rounded at the bottom. Maybe my next one is going to be a rose. And how do I make a rose? Well, it's super easy. You make a spiral on the top. See the spiral? And then you do a curve to the stem and a curve to the stem. And from the tip of the spiral, you draw a line down. There is your rose. Now for my next one over here, I'm going to draw a daisy. And how do I do that? I am going to do a circle, and then I'm going to make long petals, not short ones, but long ones, going all the way around. And if you need to turn your paper, that's okay too. So here I go. I'm turning the paper as I go, so that my daisy looks nice and round. Make sure you make those petals long. What am I going to do for my last one? For my last flower, I'm going to do, let's see, another kind of daisy, maybe with short petals this time. But look at what I'm doing. I'm going to go and stop, and go and stop. I just did overlapping right between my flowers. So you could try overlapping any time that 2 objects are going to get close to each other, and one's going to be in the front and the other one is going to be in the back. So let's see, the petals on this side, I'm going to make them short. And now I'm overlapping. So can I go on top of the other petals? No, I have to draw and stop and draw and stop. So I draw and stop and draw and stop. And look how it looks like it's behind it. And draw and stop and draw and stop. This flower is behind this one. We made some more overlapping in our drawing. What else could we add to make our drawing look more interesting? How about some leaves? Let's see. I like my stems to have 2 lines instead of 1. So now that you have 1 line in there, if you want to add a second line, you can do that. And don't forget, we are overlapping, so that means you draw and stop, and you draw and stop. And all my stems are going to have 2 lines, not 1. Make sure you do the lines on the same side that you added them. So I added this line on the left side, and here I have to add it on the left side also. And one more over here. And see, I made that one a little thicker. That's okay too. So if some of them come out thicker, that is okay too. and start and stop and start and stop. And there is my stems on my flowers. Now I'm going to add some leaves. Here's one way you could do leaves. You could do a line, and you could do a curve, and then you could do another curve. That's one way you could add a leaf. Another way you could add leaves is you could add the line and do these wavy lines. Curvy, wavy, bouncy, however you want to make them. You can make leaves that way. Some people get really elaborate with their leaves, and they do the line, a curve, another curve, and they keep on adding lots and lots of leaves up and down their stem. And that's okay too. You can make them as simple as you want or as complex as you want. My rose over here, I'm going to add a little bit here at the base of my rose. If you want to add a little extra right here on your flowers, you can do that as well. So here's my flowers. Now let me see, I wonder if I could do an overlapping leaf right here by the hand. Let's see. I'm going to draw a line, and I'm going to stop and then continue on the other side a little bit. Now I'm going to do curve, and I'm going to stop, and I'm going to continue, and another curve. And if this part is too hard for you, that's okay. You did great. There is an overlapping leaf. That is amazing. Well, now I think we're ready to add some color to our overlapping Picasso hand. If you have some watercolor paint or paint, you can use that for your flowers. If you don't, you could do that as well with crayons or markers. So I'm going to show you over here how I can do this with my paint. All right, I'm going to put my brush in the water. I'm putting it in the color, and first I'm going to see, I think I'm going to do my daisies purple. I know daisies are not purple, but that's the choice that I made. I'm being creative. So I'm putting my brush in the color, wiggling my brush, and I'm going to add some purple to my flower over here. And if your color comes out too dark, you could always rinse your brush a little and use less paint. You don't need a whole lot of paint when you're using watercolors. The whole point is to use more water and less color. That's why they're called watercolors. And here's my daisies, and try to stay inside the line as much as you can if you're painting. And if you're coloring, try to stay inside the line too. And of course I'm going a little faster than you would. So if you want to take your time and make sure it's perfect, that's fine too. All right, and it looks pretty good right there. So that's how I would do it with my paint. If I was using markers, then I would just color it in with my markers. I gotta be careful when I get to the areas where I'm overlapping, so those areas I have to be extra careful. And there is my flower with markers. So if you have markers, you could do all of them with markers. If you have paint, you could do all of them with paint. Now, when you're going to paint your stems and your leaves, you're going to have to be extra careful and extra mindful of overlapping. So I just put my brush in the water, I put it in the color, wiggle, 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 and then I'm ready to paint. So here I go. I'm going to start with the stem, and I go, and then I stop. And then I go, and then I stop. So there is my first stem that I painted using overlapping. So if you're not using paint and you're using markers, you have to remember that you go and stop, go and stop, and then go and stop. So you always have to pay attention to where you stop. And those areas where you created overlapping, you have to be extra careful to create the illusion that something is in the back and something is in the front. And now I'm doing my last stem over here, and I'm going to color it in, and then I'm going to stop, and then draw and stop, draw and stop, and then the last one all the way. Now I'm going to color my leaf, and if you want to use paint, you can use paint. If you want to use crayons or markers, that's fine too. It'll still look amazing. If you want to combine them and do mixed media, you could always do half of it with marker and the other half with paint. That's fine too. Or half of it with crayon and the other half with paint. Either way is fine. I know you guys enjoy mixed media, right? Look at that. That looks awesome. Now for the hand. Some people like to color in the hand, just one color, fill it all in. I want to make that hand really cool and creative. So I'm going to make some shapes in there. Let's see, I'm going to do some diagonal lines and some vertical lines. Let's see. So I'm going to do a diagonal line and a vertical line. A diagonal line and a vertical line. And now I can go in here to a diagonal line and a vertical line. So pretty much diagonal and vertical, diagonal and vertical, kind of like a pattern. It almost looks like a zigzag. So I'm going to go over here in the hand, and I'm going to separate it into diagonal and vertical lines. And I think this is going to look pretty cool. I'm going to do a line right here this way. And I'm going to do a line right here this way. And let's see. I'm going to do one here this way. So get creative. Put your lines wherever you want, all throughout the hand. Somebody told me it looks like a mummy a little bit, right? But we want to make a very colorful design in this hand. We want to make that hand look really interesting. And you can use crayons or markers to color in the shapes in your hand. Or paint if you want to. Yeah, I did that one with crayons. I think the crayons look really good on it. Makes the colors look nice and light and pastel, and then our flowers stand out more. And it's okay to repeat colors. You can also do the design on the hand in a different way. If you have your own idea as to how you want to do the design in the hand, that is okay too. There's one last thing to do right here on my overlapping Picasso hand, and that is to write my name. So go ahead and sign your name, not Mr. G, but your name, because you did such a great job. I hope you enjoyed today's lesson on overlapping, and you can incorporate it into more of your art projects. See you next time, Eagles, right here in Mr. G's Art Studio.